All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different today here, given Palantir's run, given the fact that it's been a long time, at least in my opinion, in my investing time frame here, it's been a little while since we've had a scenario like this with a stock that's on as big of a run as Palantir's been on. We talked about how to buy Palantir in regards to this run. So I wanted to talk about how do you actually go about selling? What scenarios would I sell in? What are my thoughts around selling Palantir in general at these levels? And a lot of other things of that nature. So make sure you like the video if you like getting the truth without the hype, because that's exactly what you're going to get today, guys. And it's going to be unfiltered and you're going to get the truth without the hype. That's all I can say about that. Now, keep in mind, I actually released this video to my group a little bit over a week ago or so in regards to what to do with Palantir stock after this epic run. Obviously, we had a lot of conversations on all of our Q&As. Obviously, people were asking me all over the Discord, getting DMs, the whole nine there. I talked about it a whole lot. So I was like, let me put together one comprehensive video here and kind of cover it all. So I'm actually going to share that video that I did for my group right here with you guys on YouTube. One, because I feel it's information you guys need to hear. And secondarily, this is the last weekend to take advantage of the biggest discount ever for my group. So make sure you check out the pinned comment down there where you get videos just like this, where we talk about, stocks like Palantir all the time. Trust me, it's a topic of conversation daily, and everything else that goes on with Palantir and all kinds of other stuff. Obviously, we talk Tesla, SoFi. I mean, you name it. We basically got a room or an engaged group of investors who know those companies on a high level. So check out the pinned comment down there if you're interested in that. But I understand that's not right for everyone. So let's jump into the video right here. All right, guys. So let's talk about selling Palantir stock and kind of have a frank discussion about it. I understand that from what I understand, some big YouTubers are sold out of it or going to sell out of it, whatever the case is. So it's something that I want to make sure we discuss here so that way you guys have my full thoughts on it, because there's a lot happening right now. And this is kind of an unusual situation in general. To be clear, this is not what I want to have happen at all. I don't like that. I would much prefer sell because there's a fundamental change for the worse, per se. Clearly that's not the case with Palantir, but if there is a fundamental change that has gotten worse with the company, that's absolutely when I would sell. But of course, we're not in that scenario. No way, no shape, no how, nothing else like that. You guys know I hate to sell in general. I would also sell if my plan changed for some reason, like let's say I'm getting close to retirement or I'm at retirement there. We kind of had a little bit of discussion about that earlier in the day today. And I just wanted pure income, for example. Well, Palantir clearly is not that stock. So I'm absolutely going to change based upon my plan, not because I don't think Palantir doesn't have a great future in front of me or in front of it going later on. I absolutely believe it does. But if my goal is income and I've got a nice run up here in Palantir, it makes sense to go ahead and move that money over here into income generating assets, because that's what I need to live. That is part of my plan. Now, what I don't agree with is whenever folks change their plan because the stock ran up. That's totally different. I'm talking about from the start, I had planned on starting to convert my stock over to income to fund my retirement, we'll say, for example. That right there is when it makes sense for me to go ahead and sell and get out of Palantir, because I don't think Palantir decides to do a decade. It's a long way away. It's not going to be anytime soon. And even if they chose to do a dividend of some sort, kind of like Meta's doing, or Google's done, or a few others, it's just going to be like that. They're going to be small. It's not really a normal dividend stock that provides you income like you would think of in regards to a traditional dividend stock. So at that stage, that might very well, make sense, right? Plans changed, you retired. Hey, I no longer need the up and down craziness that we got with Palantir and are going to get with Palantir here in the future. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Then it makes sense to sell. And the other reason is a hype run. And I'm not talking about a little one or a normal overvalued situation that happens to all growth stocks. That happens all the time with growth stocks, and that's the reason why people get shaken out, right? That's happened to Palantir multiple times on this journey here as well, where it essentially ran up, got overvalued, in some cases really overvalued, and then of course people started selling, and then of course it fell, and then they felt like geniuses, but then they didn't get back in because it was going to fall further, and then the stock ran up again, up and away from them. I'm not talking about those types of overvalued situations like we've had multiple times in Palantir's journey over the past few years. I'm talking a Tesla 2021 style run up where you are sitting on a, 1,000 PE. That right there was a time when I seriously considered selling Tesla, probably in hindsight should have, because I knew it was going to trade down for a period of years because it got that far overvalued. It got that stretched in terms of valuation. Now, a lot of you guys started asking me this whenever it got up over 40 and hit up over 50. You guys were asking me, hey, is this like Tesla 2021? No, I said no back then. And look at how much you missed out on because it was beyond stretch at that time. And you can see how much more ridiculous Wall Street gets as well And they may very well get even more ridiculous on top of this, if you can believe that. That happens with growth stocks. And that's the reason why I don't try to play these games of trying to get out and then get back in. In terms of buying, I would definitely have slowed. Even if I was DCAing at that stage, you start getting up over $50, $60. At that stage, you're pricing in a whole lot of the future there. So that way I would kind of start backing that down a little bit. I wouldn't stop it all the way, because that's the point of DCA, is to buy on the way up and the way down. But that right there is definitely something where I would have started taking some caution, but it was not a Tesla 2021 style situation yet in regards to that. Now, having said that, if we start approaching, $80, $90 or so, I would have to seriously start to considering it, because it had jumped up too much and had pulled too much forward at that situation. Now, I hope that doesn't happen before we have our next earnings call, because I'd like to see what the guidance is for the next year, because that's really going to determine how far overvalued are we. Again, this is a little bit different than Tesla, where Tesla was at a point where you could definitely see that, you couldn't, people thinking it was going to grow 50% every year in perpetuity. That was just stupid. And even if you projected out that far, it was still significantly overvalued. It had still pulled years into the now. So it was kind of ridiculous. So, but Palantir's early enough in its growth model. And more importantly, it's not relying upon, Tesla was for factories and other things of that nature. They make a lot of hard things. Cars are not easy to make. They're very capital intensive, as opposed to what Palantir does, Palantir deploys, is very, very simple to deploy and doesn't take near the level of CapEx that Tesla has, which of course means it takes more time as well in order to do all those sorts of things. So they can definitely scale faster than Tesla can scale. I would say they're also earlier in their journey in regards to scaling than Tesla was at that particular point in time in 2021. So you definitely have some things working in Palantir's favor to where we could end up still, even if it got up to that $80, $90 range, you're definitely into overvalued territory, regardless of what that guidance is. But that guidance could make it not stupid overvalued anymore, to where I would feel the need to sell. So I hope we get that timeline there. If we don't get that timeline, I'm going to have to make some tough decisions in regards to Palantir when we start approaching those ranges. I'm not saying it will, but it is possible that they continue to push it up here over the end of this year. I mean, we're seeing it right now. We're seeing 6, 7, 8% moves in a day. It's just insane at this stage. But that's what happens whenever you get animal spirits going in the market and a lot of other things of that nature, and just hype build up and just folks looking to max out their bonuses. They don't care how far overvalued they push it. They're looking to max out their bonus here at the end of the year. And if they can continue to push up the stock, they're going to continue to do it in order to max out those bonuses. So I don't want to be in that situation, because it's just not advantageous. I hate getting out of great stocks, because then it forces me to be a trader, and I have no desire to be a trader whatsoever. And also keep in mind, in my particular situation, now that accelerates a lot of things for me, because now if I sell, I have a massive, we're talking an incredible gain in the stock. Remember, I've been buying the stock for, basically 2 years straight, and buying a ton of it down in that $6, $7 range. We got a chance at that just last year to do that. So I own a lot of Palantir, and that tax bill is going to be massive because of the really low cost basis that I have. And so that forces me to make other moves early, right? Now I need to do some things in order to offset those taxes. And I don't have a whole lot of time to do it here at the end of the year. It makes it much, much harder in order for me to offset those taxes as well. So that makes it even harder to execute on and to be put in that sort of situation there. Now, to just be very, very, very clear, I hate this situation. I much prefer slow and steady, getting a little bit overvalued, no problem. Hey, I'll quit buying. Eventually Wall Street will get dumb. There'll be some report where, Palantir is losing market share. Oh, look at Snowflake. It's growing so much better. People will go on saying, whatever, all that other stuff. We see it repeatedly. It'll come back down to undervalued, and then I can start buying it again. That's much more the situation I like being in. I cannot stand being in a situation like I was with Tesla in 2021. And like I might be, we're not there yet, in my opinion. But for me, we might be in that situation right now with Palantir, where I've got to make a decision on, do I sell and take my profits or not? Because we pulled too much forward. I hate that, especially with great companies that I think especially in the case of Palantir, we're at the beginning of a potentially multi-decade, story of incredible growth with a lot of other companies, because they were 20 years private, or 15, 18, whatever the heck the number was, private, before they actually went public. They're not just ahead of competition, they're way ahead of competition. And more importantly, their client base is companies, not consumers. That's, one of the, I won't say downsides with Tesla, but that's one of the hard parts with Tesla, is they go as the economy goes, right? They need finance, they need interest rates low. They need the consumer to be in a great spot. They need a lot of those sorts of things in order for them to continue to grow as rapidly as we'd like for them to grow. I'm not saying they can't do that, but it's much harder in that world than it is in Palantir's world, where companies are willing to spend billions to keep up with the competition. To obviously, those executives all have multi-million dollar, tens of millions of dollars in bonuses depending upon their performance. And if Palantir is the only solution out there, they'll pay anything for it. Us as consumers, we can't do that just simply to get a car to get us from point A to point B. If we don't got the money right now, our interest rates don't look good, we'll just hang on to our car for another year and come back the next year. That an executive can't do that. They've got to make decisions today. They've got to move today, because they could be out of a job in a year from now. So it's a very, very different type of business, and a much more like basically a steady ride up in regards to growth and consistent growth, reliable growth. Of course, government contracts are huge. That's another thing that, really, really sets them kind of apart from a lot of their competitors. Is not only they can play kind of both sides of the fence there. So if one slows, no problem, they can increase the other one, and vice versa. So there's a lot of different levers there with Palantir that I'm excited about. So I don't want to be in that spot where I have to make that decision. So would a 40% haircut surprise me? No, it wouldn't. Not at all. That would still make the price, what, over $40 or so per share? I think, if I'm asked correct, you guys correct me down in the comments. I'm sure you will. I'm trying to do this on the fly here in my head. And of course, it's got to be a 7, not an 8. But nonetheless, anyways, the point being, yeah, it makes it right around $40 or so. Okay, if that happens, where am I at in regards to an investor? I'm still a pretty happy investor. More importantly, if that guidance comes and it actually is great guidance to where I can see, hey, it's actually worth, according to their guidance, by the end of the year next year, $50 per share. Now we're right back to that undervalued territory again, where I can start adding to the stock again based upon that new guidance that's out there. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the guidance that's given, but they have obviously for 3 quarters straight now, not only surprised to the upside, but guided higher each time. And so or have hinted towards higher each time. And then of course, guided towards it as we got closer. So that's exciting stuff. And more importantly, whenever you have folks on the earnings call saying things like, oh, we got more demand than we can keep up with, those are all good signs that not only can they increase their prices, but also that they can scale as quickly as they want to at that particular point in stage, because they have that much demand, which are great spots to be in as a business per se. So yes, could I see it correcting down, 30, 40%, whatever the number is? Absolutely. Am I have any interest in trading? No, because it might very well only correct down $10. It might you might say, okay, I think it's going to correct down to $40 or so. So I'm gonna go ahead and sell right now, take my profits, of course, for me, pay taxes and all this other crap like that. And then I'm going to jump back in at 40. And if it only gets down to 50 and never goes back, now I'm chasing. Now I'm a trader. And this is why traders lose to dead people. It's not, unless we get that 2021 style overvaluation, which I hope we don't get. That right there is a situation I don't want to be in. More importantly, I'm not scared of that happening. Who freaking cares? I'm not in Palantir today because I believe it's a $70 stock 10 years from now. If I was, I'd be selling no problem, out of the stock, absolutely gone. I'm buying it because I believe it's, several $100 stock in the future. Now, whether that's 200, whether that's 500, like some of the bulls producing, everybody's speculating at stage. I have no idea. I just know I feel it's going to be worth a lot more, a decade from now than it is today. And $70 is going to look laughable, and it's going to look incredibly cheap. So for me, why the heck would I sell that? Just simply because I'm afraid it'll go down in the short term, down to, $40, $50, whatever the case is. Makes no sense. That's trading. That's a trading mentality. Folks had the same exact feeling, and that same exact thought process is what had people selling at $12, $15 in Palantir, if you can believe that. People were selling at 12 because it's guaranteed to go back down to 7. Oh my gosh, it's way overvalued. It's all these other things of that nature. All the charts all say this and that, which is all true. But what ended up happening? It ended up going up 20, 25, 35. Earlier this year, down at 20. For whatever reason, people didn't want to buy it. I don't know why. All this, that, the macro, this, that. And now all of a sudden people are fearful of it falling again. It's like, those are just gifts over and over and over again to a long-term buy and hold investor. Unless you believe $70 is the max that this sucker is going to be worth in 5 or 10 years, then it makes perfect sense to me. And I'm not saying you're right or wrong. That could very well be true. I don't believe that to be true, but that doesn't make my opinion right and yours wrong. That makes perfect sense then to sell. But if you truly believe it's going to be this beast in the future, you're just simply trading based upon fear, which is the same exact thing as FOMOing because of FOMO, right? They're all emotions. And same exact thing whenever a stock dips and you just go, oh man, it's just going to keep going lower. All the folks that sold Tesla down at the bottom, lots of people bought at 400 because it was going to the moon. Again, emotions. FOMO, look at all these pretty charts and graphs and all these spreadsheets that tell you all this sort of great stuff that, Tesla's going to do. And so they bought at 400. And then when it was down at the lows, everybody's doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, it could go to 60, it could go to 80, whatever the case was. So then it ended up selling right there. And we don't want to be in that spot. We want to be in the spot where we're avoiding buying at that 400, or at least cautiously buying, just if you're doing a DCA, you just continue your DCA. Or if you're doing a modified DCA like I do, you're laying off a little bit for a little bit here, kind of see if it cools off or not before continuing your DCA. And then if it falls, you're back to adding heavy again. But we're not playing trader games based upon emotions, because you always lose, because it is impossible to know, is it going to fall to 50? Is it going to fall to 40? Everybody likes to look back at charts and it looks really, really simple. But if it was that simple, we'd have trillionaire investors, and there are no trillionaire investors. Go look at the performance of everybody that's told you to do this, that, and the other with Palantir. The vast majority of them, including the bulls and the bears, have failed epically, when all we did was just simply buy and hold and buy again when it dips. That's it. It really is that simple. We used that same strategy in 2022 and it worked out great. Not in the short term. Over the long run, it worked out great, right? There was plenty of shares of Palantir I bought and it just went lower. And then there was plenty of times it ran up and I bought, and of course it dipped right back down. And we repeated it and rinsed that process over and over and over again, all the way up to where we are right now. So unless you think right now is the peak, then it makes no sense. If you think $200 is the peak at some point in time in the future, who freaking cares, right? It's 70. I'm not here for 70. I'm here for 200. I'm here for 500. Whatever the number is for you that you're here for, that you believe it can get to, that's what you need to focus on. Not these short term, oh my gosh, I'm afraid my balance is going to go down or something of that nature. That's just fear dictating your investments. Cool. I want Palantir to go down. I would be so happy if Palantir dipped down to under $20 again next year. That would be incredible. The freak out on YouTube would be amazing. The freak out everywhere would be amazing. That would be incredible, because I know exactly what I own. I know exactly what it's worth, and I would be getting a steal deal at that stage. I don't care how much I'm quote unquote down from the highs in regards to that. Guess what? Palantir is going to make a new high, and I'm going to have a lot more shares than I had the first time it made that high this year, right? If it gets back to 70 again, which I think we all think that it will over the long run. Hey, if it dips down and it stays down for a year, man, I'm going to be buying a lot of shares of Palantir once again, because it's a better company than it was when I was buying it in 2022 and 2023 and earlier this year. Unless there's earnings performance that dips, it should be an even better company in 2025, therefore making it an even bigger steal deal. Despite the fact the price isn't down at 7, it's still a bigger steal deal because of the performance of the company at that 20. And I'll own a lot more shares. So whenever it goes back up to 70, yeah, that old account balance that I had, or that old balance that you're hanging on to right now that you don't want to lose, is going to look paltry compared to what it will be the next time it runs up to that particular point. So don't let those type thoughts, those type processes go in. That is how you lose as an investor, is let fear or FOMO or any of those other things take over. They are losing bets in the end. Stick to your plan. Outside of some crazy Tesla 2021 style run, we're not there yet, but we're definitely on the march towards it, right? I can't, whenever we were at 50, it was laughable. It's like, okay, whatever, guys, talk to me whenever we're, approaching 100. Well, we're kind of halfway to that 100 mark from that 50 mark there. So definitely something I have on my mind. That's why I kind of made the comment yesterday in the group. It's like, what the heck do you guys do? I left you alone for 2 weeks and all of a sudden you had $20 to the stock. I mean, I hadn't looked at it in 2 weeks. That's how little I look at these things, because it doesn't freaking matter. I would have been scared if I would have looked at how much money I lost in 2022. And more importantly, I would have been incredibly exuberant, right now today, if I were to look and see how much I'm up across all of my portfolios and be making silly decisions at that stage emotionally for a different reason. I don't want any of that in my investing. Just going to stick my head down, continue to follow my plan and move forward. So that's my latest thoughts on Palantir. Of course, if we start getting up closer to that, $80, $90 range, whatever the case is, we'll make another video. We'll talk about it more and talk through the process from there. But those are my current thoughts. So, and remember, if you want videos just like that, you want direct access to me, be able to ask me any question you want, be able to take 5 courses for free, get your free coaching, be a part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there, and so much more, guys. Check out the pinned comment, see if a membership's right for you. Take advantage of the biggest discount ever from my group before that expires and the price goes up. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.